you done now?
Of course. How else could I have known everything about you all? There's still one thing I don't understand.
One thing.
Who was Mrs. Peacock taking bribes from? A foreign power. Her husband, the senator, has influence over defense contracts. Is there going to be a cover-up? Isn't that in the public interest? What could be gained by exposure?
But is the FBI in the habit of cleaning up after multiple murder?
Yes. Why do you think it's run by a man called Hoover?
Oh, Mrs. Peacock.
How did you know my name?
The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Okay, take her away.
Take your hands off me! I'm the senator's wife!
Wadsworth, we got her.
You see, like the Manties, we always get our man.
Mrs. Peacock was a man?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clue Movie Podcast, where we break down the 1985 cult classic movie Clue 1 minute at a time. My name is Brad Gilmore, joined by Razor Ramon, Jeff Smith.
No.
No?
I am not Razor Ramon.
It says Razor Ramon, and I can't read the rest of your name.
Oh, it says, no, wait, it's Jeff. So whenever I come into the chat to do the Clue the Movie Podcast, here's a little behind the curtain, guys. I put in a 80s pro wrestler name. And so it's been like Big Jeff Stud. It's been King Kong Jeff. And this morning I was feeling very lazy, so I did not get very creative. I just put Razor Ramon. Now it's Jeff. So not clever today.
You know what? Razor Ramon.
We're getting to the end. I'm running out of 80s wrestlers.
Razor Ramon, one of the greats. Just from like a character, a look.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah. I love, with the toothpick.
The toothpick, you know?
What was his real name? You probably know.
Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott Hall.
Scott Hall.
Yeah.
That's like Jeff Smith.
I think he might be from, is he from Texas? He might be from Texas, or he's from.
That'd be like if I decided I was going to have a super exotic name all of a sudden as my pro wrestler. And he'd be like, but he had it. He had the mullet.
Yeah, he had the whole thing. The kind of
5
wet.
o'clock shadow.
The consistently wet hair.
Always wet, yeah.
He's actually from St. Mary's County, Maryland, actually.
Okay. Not even close.
Not even close. But yeah, not where you would think he's from, because I remember he's portrayed to be like a Cuban national somewhat.
Yeah.
Right?
Like back in the 80s when racism was fine.
When it's like, hey, let's let this guy from Maryland play a Cuban.
It's fine.
You know, rest in peace, though, to the great Scott Hall of Famer. Passed away a couple years ago.
Wrestler tangent right off the bat, everybody. Welcome to Clue the Movie Podcast.
Hey, man, minute 87. By the way, I will say this. Minute 87, one of the best minutes we've seen in several minutes, I think, as far as a lot happens.
It's efficient, that's for sure. Maybe too efficient, really, because this is not totally confirmed. I think John Hatch, the great John Hatch, who wrote What Do You Mean Murder? The Clue book that everyone that listens to this podcast should own by now.
Absolutely.
Has mentioned that Mrs. Peacock originally, we believe, was shot at the end by the elderly 42-year-old man. And it was changed. So that's why it seems so abrupt. And that's why once she disappears off camera, and the lights turn on, you don't see her again. You don't see her apprehended. You just hear her off camera saying, "Take your hands off me. I'm a senator's wife." And the elderly man like twirls his gun like a gunslinger from the West as if he shot her. Because why would you just go like point and then go, "All right, take her away," and then woohoo, spin your gun afterwards? Like, you're the sheriff in town.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny play.
I think she was originally shot, but what did she do to be shot? Did she lunge, or did he just shoot her?
He might.
I don't know. I don't know.
She could have maybe reached, because did she still have the revolver?
Yes, she walked out with the gun, so probably she pointed it, and that's, you know what, that would make sense why he did the little twirly twirl,
right?
Because they had a standoff there at the end.
Yeah, the little old school shoot off. little
You
standoff
said,
shooter.
I thought we could settle this like men. And she said, you thought wrong, dude.
There's so much here. So let's start with actually before we start with the minute, I did want to
Not so fast, everybody.
comment on a few things. One,
All right.
we have a new review, a 5-star review on Apple.
Hey.
On Apple.
Hey.
I don't know if we get reviews on Spotify. I guess I should look into that. But on Apple, we have a 5-star review. This came at the end of June from Asher Mommy.
Oh.
Asher Mommy. And this is what it says.
Asher's mom.
Love the podcast. Already starting off great.
All right. You don't even need to keep going.
I'm on about episode 65. It's hard to believe we have that many.
Okay.
I've been binging it. I just wanted to share a couple of connections I have with Clue. When I was in middle school, my cousins and we actually made our own Clue film. It was called The Black Glove. I love it. In our version, a group of kids are playing the Clue game and get sucked into it. We totally stole from Jumanji. And they become Clue characters. Mrs. Peacock and Colonel Mustard are the killers. Miss Scarlet was poisoned. Miss White was stabbed. And Professor Plum was strangled. We didn't have Wadsworth. Also, my bachelorette party was Clue-themed. Everyone dressed up as a different Clue character. I was Mrs. White, but I actually wore white. And we did a little scavenger hunt, etc. Anywho, I thought you would appreciate those tidbits. Also, random fact, Jeff and I went to Cal State Fullerton. Keep up the good work. Great Scott. Can I get a great Scott?
Great Scott!
Great Scott.
What do you think of all that?
There's a lot of that. Well, first of all, it's true. I did one summer semester just to graduate at Cal State Fullerton. I doubt Asher Mom was there when I was there. I have very little memory of it because it was one of those things where I needed 2 more classes to graduate. It was the summer after I walked like with my graduating class as a phony in May, knowing that I still needed to take 2 classes at a different school. So I walked, I got the little folder that had nothing in it. But so all a ruse. So I'm not a fan of graduations anyway, but it really seemed phony baloney because I wasn't even really graduated. So I had to take 2 classes that summer at Cal State Fullerton just to make it real. And it was terrifying because I thought if I don't pass these, then I'm in a lot of trouble. I don't even remember what the classes were. I do remember that there was a sign language interpreter in one of them that I just watched and was fascinated by. So have I mentioned that I went to Cal State Fullerton before on the podcast?
That's what I was just trying to figure out. Like, how would they know this?
Perhaps and it's not like when I went to school, I talked to anybody. So I must have brought it up somewhere. So good on you, Asher Mom.
You spoke to no one in school?
Not really.
So
I was super focused on just getting through.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like before I think like my last semester of my undergrad, I took all the classes online, and I got them out of there early because I was like, man, if I could do them all, I literally took 7 classes in my final semester, which is like a pretty big course load. But I was like, I don't want to do an extra semester and graduate in the spring. Let me get it done at the end of this year. But you would go when I would still go to class. I'll find like the 1 or 2 people who sat close to you, right? Who you'd rely on. I don't know if this was your experience in college, but I would have like the 2 people I relied on to be like, hey, what's due when? What are you working on? That kind of relationship. And it was funny because I was going through my contacts the other day looking for somebody's number, and I have all these people, and next to their name is like UH. So I know like, oh, that's someone in my class. Or sometimes it would be the name of the class, like COM 1304 or whatever. But yeah, I don't remember any of them. I couldn't tell you one person's name I went to college with.
Yeah, and it's not a wise way to go through school because, especially in film school, the whole point to go, it's not really to learn how to do anything because the technology changes all the time. It's to network. It's to meet people that you're going to want to work with before. So if I had a time machine and I go back, I would definitely be much more chatty with the people I was sitting with. I was just so focused on got to get out because I hated school so much. So who knows? Maybe Asher Mom I was like sitting right next to the entire time.
Yeah, what's that?
And I could have asked about the Black Glove because that interests me too.
I like that
I
part.
wonder if they still have a copy of the Black Glove because that should be on YouTube like right now.
So it's a film. Yeah, it's a full film.
Yeah, with kids.
With kids. They didn't have wads.
Clue, but did they Jumanji in? You do not Jumanji in. You Jumanji out.
And what's interesting too is I guess I haven't seen the original Jumanji in quite some time. In the original Jumanji, do they turn into? They don't go into the game. The game comes out.
There is a very recent Saturday Night Live sketch, which everyone should look for YouTube, where this is the argument on Jumanji.
Is it really?
It is very, very, very funny, and that's actually what I'm quoting when I say you don't Jumanji in, Jumanji comes out. But I will admit this: I have never seen Jumanji.
Wait,
none of them, and not even the OG original.
Whoa. Okay.
Yep.
You know what? We were
Revelation.
talking about Cloak and Dagger, the '84 classic, before we started this.
Before we came on, we were talking about the '80s classic Cloak and Dagger, which I have a feeling some Clue the Movie podcast people have seen. It is fantastic, but I have not seen Jumanji because there was a period there where I was kind of over Robin Williams.
I understand a little bit. Yeah.
The shtick had gotten a little
Sure.
like, okay, I get
Sure.
it. Which makes me feel like a terrible person now. But at the time, I was like, I was more Fisher King, Robin Williams at the time.
I understand.
So screaming Robin Williams, I was like, I get it. But so I've not seen Jumanji, but I would love to see the Black. Eventually I will see Jumanji because actually that SNL sketch made me want to see Jumanji. It's very, very funny. Google it, YouTube it. But and of course, Brad, you will be seeing Cloak and Dagger at some point
For pick six. So
for pick six.
which is why I'm bringing up Jumanji. I think Jumanji has now officially made it onto my list there. I mean,
I think my 6 is becoming 12.
mine is moving around as well. But you know what? We're not doing the podcast just for a year. This will be, hopefully
For the
as
rest
this
of our
one,
lives.
For the rest of our lives.
Like this one is for the rest of our lives. So that's a wonderful review. I love it, and I want to see the Black Glove, and I'd love to see kids playing the Clue characters.
a couple additional things, and then I want to jump into the minute in its totality. The elderly man who's 42, right?
Yeah.
What do you think why do you think the difference between 85, 84, and 2024? Like, why do people age better now? Because I saw this thing on Instagram the other day, and it showed it was literally, this was the two comparisons. It was like Estelle Getty at 54, and you see Estelle Getty from the Golden Girls at 54, and she looks like she's 80, right? And then the next thing it says Halle Berry at 54, and she still looks like fresh out of the Flintstones, Halle Berry. And then it would say Rue McLachlan at 52, and then it shows J-Lo at 52, and it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, the other two versions I've seen of that are Pat Morita in Karate Kid and Ralph Macchio.
Right.
Because Ralph Macchio is now older than Pat Morita was as Mr. Miyagi.
It looks
and
great.
Then the other one is Wilford Brimley at his age and Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd, you should use it as an example, though. That's not fair.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then the other one you see is like the cast of Cheers, and it'll put their ages next to them, and like Rhea Perlman is 32, and I don't know. I think maybe in the 80s they had it rougher. Because haven't you seen somebody and they go, "Oh, I'm like 30," and you go, "Oh, but that's a hard 30."
Yeah, it's a tough 30.
Like what happened? Where did you grow up and what did you do? I'll see that every once in a while. We'll be watching some kind of terrible reality show and they'll have some, person that looks like a ghoul. And then it'll pop in the corner and go, Bertha, 38. And I go, holy cow, I'm way older than her, but I don't feel like it.
Like, and again, we don't venture into the political realm, but there is a vice presidential candidate running for president who's 39. And I guess he'd be the second youngest vice president, if elected, ever behind Richard Nixon. But even that 39, I was like, he's 39. He looks like 49. You know, I mean, it might be the beard. And then I looked up Richard Nixon at 39, and Richard Nixon looked like he was approaching his 50s, you know, or in his 50s at 39.
Yeah.
Old Millhouse. Politics probably ages you. Has there been a great aging politician?
Well, you see those pictures all the time where you see what they look like before they go in an office. Barack Obama famously looked like, you know, super young and spry. And then when he came out, he still looks better than anybody else, but
hair
the
full
hair
of
was
hair
gray,
yeah.
and the circles under the eyes. And it's like, he's seen some stuff.
Although
maybe that's it.
Trump looked the same after, but it's only 4 years. So maybe that's the thing.
But he's looked that way
forever
since 1989. He's always looked
he has
like
the
hell.
Same.
He's got the same hair and the same
everything.
face.
You know what? Yeah. Also, to get off of people's ages and why they look differently than they did back in the day, I wasn't totally sure if we were going to have time to record this week because there was a bunch of things going on with you and with me, and I didn't know.
Sure.
So yesterday, I said, let me just, because we haven't missed a Monday, ever. Right. We haven't always recorded, but there's something has dropped every Monday. So I was like, let me record something as a just-in-case show. Sure. So yesterday, I ended up recording a just-in-case podcast.
Don't waste it now.
Sans Jeff.
Who knows what can happen.
Right? But now I'm just letting people know. Maybe it would be a bonus or something. But I listened for the first time to the Siskel and Ebert review of Clue. That was actually on, I think, one of your YouTube channels is where I found it. And I was kind of a little bit shocked by their just brushing it away. And then very dismissive of the movie. Like, literally, I think Roper says at the end, if you're going to see this movie, you know, you want to see ending A, but you're probably better off not seeing this movie at all, or something along those lines.
Ebert, Roger Ebert,
Is Ebert? Oh, I said Roper. I'm used to Ebert and Roper because that was my generation. That was my generation. Siskel and Ebert is your generation. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert.
Gene Siskel, better, good team.
Oh, better than Ebert and Roper. Yes.
Look at Siskel and Ebert on Letterman anytime you want to see very funny clips. Well, anybody on Letterman, but especially those two. Very dismissive on it. They don't get the humor. They just they talk about what's it going to be when it releases on VHS. Where they can put all three endings at the end. I'm like, yeah. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah, he called it. So
almost everybody watches it.
I might drop that at some point on this feed. But Jeff, let's go to minute 87. Yeah. Let's just dive into it.
This is the Peacock ending, and it cut off right before like a very silly sound effect as Mr. Green is getting slapped for one of probably definitely the top 10 lines in all of Clue. Mrs. Peacock was a man. Confused, Mr. Green to the very end. This is the ending where I do not believe Mr. Green is a secret agent.
No, because he's living.
Unless he's just playing it to the end, because he doesn't have to now. He doesn't have to pretend anymore. But he shows just how dumb he is at the very end. Well, where now Mustard is smarter than Green, and that should never be.
I was going to make that observation of like Mustard is the one that slaps Mr. Green, or one of the two who slaps Mr. Green, and I'm like, Mustard, whoa, bro, you don't have any okay. You don't have clearance. You are not G14 classified here to do this.
Yeah, that is the pot calling the kettle mustard.
That's exactly
not okay. Not okay. Like, don't be judgy in the last 2 seconds.
What did you think of Wadsworth as this FBI agent?
Oh, where he's like super cool at the end?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the Hoover joke.
Oh, I saw you give a big thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Yeah, that's such. It's if you don't get it, fans, why when he says why is the FBI in the habit of cleaning up? Because why is it run by a man called Hoover? Of course, he's talking about J. Edgar Hoover, and Hoover's a brand of vacuum cleaners, which I guess was around in 1954.
I'm about to look it up.
I see Brad's hands going to the keyboard to find out when the Hoover Vacuum Company started.
Hoover Vacuum Company, the Hoover Company, founded in Ohio in 1915. Is what it says in the United States.
It's not a great joke, and there's even a pause or laugh. Like, why do you think it's? Or it's a pause for you to go, what did he mean? Oh, the vacuum.
Okay,
And then it even cuts to Peacock walking out with a big sting on the John Morris score. Gong.
I want to get to that because I have so many questions about the Peacock at her core part of this minute. But
Sure.
the first upright vacuum cleaner was invented in June of 1908 in North Canton, Ohio. That seems very early for people to be like, we got to do something about this dust. Like, we got to.
Do they even
the broom
have an
doesn't
outlet
work.
to plug it in?
In '08, I guess they had to.
They must have, because that'd be silly. No, you know what they would they have the vacuums that just kind of roll?
Because
You
it
don't
says
even
the
have to plug
first
them in?
upright vacuum. So
Okay, but not a power vacuum.
no. Let's see. It was invented by department store janitor, an occasional inventor. I love that little line. Occasional
That part's great.
inventor, James Murray Spangler. Spangler was an asthmatic, and suspecting the carpet sweeper he was using at work was the cause of his ailment, he created a basic suction sweeper by mounting an electric fan motor on a carpet sweeper and then adding a soap box and a broom handle. After refining the design and obtaining a patent for the electric suction sweeper, he set on producing it himself, assisted by his son, who helped him assemble the machines, and his daughter, who helped assemble the dust bags. Production was slow, completing just 2 to 3 machines a week. So there you go.
I love that. He was a janitor that was like tired of wheezing.
Tired of wheezing.
And he thought there's got to be a better way.
Necessity.
And he didn't complain. He didn't complain. Just like, it's like, you know what? But why is it? Then why do we call it the Spangler?
I know it should. Yeah, and why the Hoover Company? I'm sure there's more there.
Well, he wasn't working on branding, I guess, back then. It would totally be Spangler.
Right.
We'd all be spangling, like, this floor is filthy. Can you spangle this, please?
Yeah, I guess so. You know.
Okay. And then, because then then the J. Edgar Hoover joke would not have landed because Hoover wouldn't be Spangler. But yeah, let's keep going. So then Mrs. Peacock walks out.
Whoa.
And,
I'm not over the Hoover. I'm not over the Hoover.
We're not over the Hoover. Oh,
I have one other
sucks.
I have one other question. Better Hoover joke, okay? Is it this joke that we have, why you think the FBI's used to cleaning things up? Or is it in Home Alone 2 with Macaulay Culkin and Rob Schneider, when Rob Schneider's walking Macaulay to the hotel room, the suite, and he says to him, you know, Herbert Hoover once stayed on this floor. And Macaulay goes, the vacuum guy? And then he goes, no, the president. Better joke. Which one? Neither is strong.
I have to take away points because the Home Alone 2 one involves Rob Schneider. So I think I'll go with Clue. But excellent Tim Curry connection.
Yes, there is a Tim Curry connection there. But so there is two Tim.
I love you.
I love you. Get on your knees and tell me you love me. Stolen credit card. He's so good. His delivery is so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. We're gonna go with the Clue joke. Now here's the other thing. Miss Peacock goes out to the car and she's about to leave. Elderly man says her name. How do you know my name?
Peacock.
The kingdom of heaven is upon us, Miss Peacock. And then you get the spotlights come on.
Oh, we're looking at the script right now.
No. I'm just reading. Isn't this what happens?
No, you're right. Kingdom of heaven is at hand. And I thought you were reading the script. Okay, go ahead.
No, I just have that great a memory. And
well, you misquoted it, so I thought maybe you were looking at the script. Kingdom of heaven is at hand, Brad Gilmore.
Is at hand, not upon us.
Spotlights. Yeah.
And then the spotlights come on. So here, and then the FBI agents rush in. Here's the question. Does, in this ending, when Wadsworth takes the call from J. Edgar Hoover, is he setting this up at the end? Has he already figured it out at this point? Like, it's Mrs. Peacock, so let's go ahead. Let's bring the boys in. Let's get set up. And then, well, answer that first, because then I have a follow-up.
I will say yes, because her fatal mistake, according to Wadsworth, revealing that the cook used to be her cook, happens like in the first 15 minutes. So if he knew then, first of all, kind of irresponsible. If he knew way back then and he allowed more people to die since then, he probably could have like called the evening pretty early. The second she says, "This is one of my favorite recipes," "I know, madam." Da, 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 like it should have been credits, and that would have been ending number 2. So yes, I think he does know because he says he knows.
And then here's my other question: the spotlights. 1, what's the need? 2, when did they set them up? 3,
When did they set them up?
How did no one hear that? And 4, did they do it during the rain? Those are my 4 questions.
My 4 answers are movie, 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 and movie. Yeah, wouldn't that be hilarious when the motorist gets there? Like he drives up and he kind of looks over and like the FBI is like, "All right, get the crane. All right, where are we supposed to plug this in? We need an outlet. Hold on. No, it's wet. Oh, this rain. Why did we do it tonight? This weather. Who's this guy? Don't worry about it. Everybody hide." That's true. The logistics are challenging. And then, our favorite Bill the cop, did he know? Did he see them setting up the lights? Did they like, "Hey, Bill, just go in there and play dumb"?
And this, because you have to think about the timeline of the movie. This happens not far after Singing Telegram Girl is killed. Because after Singing Telegram Girl is killed, Wadsworth goes, "I know what happened." And he recounts all this. And this Peacock ending is literally immediately following his explanation, right?
So you would assume that the lights are set up.
They got to be there.
Go when she gets there.
Right?
Yeah. And could they have turned on the lights to save the Singing Telegram Girl, or they just let it happen?
They just let it happen.
I think the FBI just let it happen.
You think so?
Yeah, I think they let that poor girl die. It's sad now. Now this ending is very sad.
It's gotten a little bit grim, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. The lights always threw me off because I'm just like, what is the point of that?
It's not easy to set up lights like that unless they had a whole electrician team. But did they bring in a truck? Because those are very tall lights, and these are 1954 lights.
Right.
So they're probably very bulky. They probably don't retract.
It's very strange. Now, here is the script now that I will read to. This is page 121 into 122. It's kind of a long script. I guess it's because of the different endings. And it's the original draft. They always go a little long. This says, exterior of the driveway. Mrs. Peacock gets to her car. She opens the car, and the elderly evangelist appears from nowhere. Elderly evangelist. Mrs. Peacock, she turns. "How do you know my name?" Elderly evangelist, "The kingdom of heaven is at hand." And the elderly evangelist, easy for me to say, shoots her. Surprise, she collapses out of the frame, dead. Elderly evangelist, "I did warn you," and he fires again. Woo! Good Lord. Interior of the hull, all the others heard the gunshots. Wadsworth smiles. Wadsworth, "I thought it wouldn't take us that long." Blackout.
Jeez. She didn't even lunge. Just, hey, boom. Talk about grim. They didn't even have the lights back then. And no, Mrs. Peacock is a man. Something that I know that Clue fans are like screaming in their heads right now, wondering if we're going to bring up, because it is something that probably bothers them as much as it has always bothered me. When he calls her out by name and she says, "How do you know my name?" That's not her name. It's her alias.
Right.
So it's a weird reaction.
But do you
Mrs.
think
Peacock?
But do you think she's saying, like, how would you know people like
That's what they're calling me tonight?
Yeah.
Sure, I guess. but like that would have been the time where he said like, "Oh, Mrs. Jameson," because that would have been fun. Like we get a little reveal on the real name.
Yeah.
And then she says, "How do you know my name?" Because then that would be a super shock because we've never heard it, and if he heard anything, he would know Peacock. That's all she's been called all night. But like, what if she said, "Yeah"? What if it was like, "Oh, Mrs. Stevenson"? I don't know why it's always son at the end of my names, but syllables count.
Yeah. There's something funny about syllables too.
Oh,
It's like,
Mrs. Ramon,
there you go, Mrs. Razor.
Mrs. Hall.
Do you think? Why do you think they took out the killing of her? Because
Shoot it. Oh, because it's messed up. I think
the second
like, why
shot
did-
is unnecessary.
Well, that's even weirder.
It's very
That's like,
strange.
He's mad at her. That's personal. If this was Dateline and they were like analyzing it, they go, "Well, this was personal. He obviously hated her." Yeah, well, I mean, the first one's even like she just turns around. I know she's a murderer, but we let Scarlett just kind of we drag Scarlett out, but the senator's wife, she needs to die. She didn't do it. She did. She's a killer, but she turned around and especially, I guess there's all the police aren't there in this. It's just ancient evangelist by himself, and then the suspects are just hanging out inside. They hear bang, and they're like, "Wah wah." She's dead.
It's over.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So abrupt and dark.
It's an interesting choice.
But it seems like they did film her getting shot.
It
I would
seems like that
imagine.
because of the cut, right?
And then they probably looked at it afterwards and went, "Oh, no.
Yeah.
What do we do?" And so then they bring Eileen Brennan into the studio and say, "Just yell this line, 'Get your hands off me. I'm a senator's wife.' And that's how we'll know she's being taken away." And then it doesn't mean anything when Howard Hessman says, "We got her." It could mean she's going to jail.
But the Mrs. Peacock was a man.
And in past tense.
We got
Not
her.
Mrs. Peacock is a man.
Yeah, was a man. Oh yeah.
She did.
Oh, hey, look at you. Syntax. Look, some context clues there.
It matters. It matters.
Wow.
Mrs. Peacock was the late, great Mrs. Peacock
Yeah.
is dead.
But it's a great joke. I like the was a
Yeah.
man. It's a great line.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
He's just like, his final, like, "I got it. Shut up."
Shut
They
up,
just
dude.
slap him.
Bam, bam.
We're
And then-
done. It's over.
And then we're going to get
Go to
to
sleep.
ending C
Yeah.
as far as the chronology
Here we
here.
are.
And we're almost there, man. We're about to wrap this thing up.
We're home stretch.
Home stretch. And we'll see. But we have minute 88 to get to next week. Any final thoughts on 87 here?
I liked this ending more that we watched it this time. When we started, I kind of said, I mean, it is my least favorite of the three.
Still, yeah.
But I appreciate its efficiency, I suppose. But it isn't an ending where you go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that all makes sense." It's an ending that makes you go, "Okay, that'll be fine."
Yeah.
She is missing a lot in a lot of the early scenes. So if you go back, even though we always say Miss Scarlet is the ending that makes the most sense, there's a lot of times where Peacock is not present in certain scenes. Like when they go to check on Yvette, Mrs. Peacock is not there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when she's supposed to be killing the cook. So they did do it. Jonathan Lynn did do a good job in making sure that people were missing in scenes. So when you do go back, and that's pretty good that he was anticipating that people were going to watch it again. I don't think he anticipated that anybody would watch it like we do, but he did make it so if you go back, for the most part, it checks out. Even the Peacock ending.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts?
You know what? I
on
still
Peacock?
like ending A so far more than ending B. But looking ahead to what we're going to see with C, I don't know. My ranking might change. I used to think, honestly, I like C the most.
Yeah.
You know? because it was like well, we'll get to it, but
We're gonna get to it real soon.
I don't know anymore.
Next week, in fact.
Next week we're
Come
gonna get
back,
to it.
everybody.
But I think
We're gonna.
I'm like you. When Peacock started, when this one started, I go, oh, this kind of sucks, And then toward the end of it, I'm like, this is kind of good ending.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
And Eileen Brennan, to her credit, is like super. She does a very good transition. She's of all the characters, she changes. The second she's revealed, you see a physical change. Her acting style changes. Her voice even changes. She looks now mean. If you think back to her in the "Someone's Got to Break the Ice" scene, and then compare her to the ending where she says, "There's no proof." Totally different personality. So that's pretty impressive.
Well, and Wadsworth and Tim Curry here at the end, he's kind of cool.
Oh, he's leaning on the banister. It's like, yeah, we got it.
Yeah. He's kind of a cool dude.
What'd you expect? Like, this was going to happen. That's why it's sad that some people died. Because if he had it all figured out early, like, hey, man.
I know. You're not really good at your
Bill
job.
Bill the cop had to...
We have to see him wrap things up. But you know what, Jeff? Speaking of wrapping things up, we're going to wrap this podcast up so we can talk about 88. Next week, 88. Oh, man, that's a big
88.
one. It's a big one.
Great Scott.
Great Scott. That's Jeff Smith, Razor Ramon. I'm the boat Brad Gilmore. And we will see you next week for minute 88 of Clue the Movie Podcast.